So you want to find the Kentucky Derby winner? Well, don't we all? For all of us who have analyzed the Kentucky Derby for years, we know what an intense process it is, looking at every metric, every statistic, analyzing every past performance, and watching all of those prep videos for all 20 contenders. But Maura, why is it so difficult? Don't horses run every day? Well, let me tell you why the Kentucky Derby is so unique. It's only for 3-year-olds. These are like kids. They only get one shot at the Kentucky Derby. Also, they've never run this distance before. It is the longest distance they've run at 1.25 miles. We don't know how they're going to do. Also, 19 other contenders, largest field they have ever competed against. And it's in front of the largest, rowdiest crowd ever. So what are we looking for? Well, it's got to be speed and stamina. Enough speed to compete and win against 19 other contenders, and the stamina to run that extremely tough 1.25 mile distance. And it's still not that easy, right? Because if it was that easy, this wouldn't be the Super Bowl of horse racing. Traffic, it's a real thing. 20 horses on the field. A horse can get pinned at the rail, can't get out. A horse may have to go really wide. They're already going 1.25 mile distance. Going wide just adds more distance. That's why looking at those prep races, who did they compete against? Did they have to weave in and out of traffic? Did they have large fields? All of that is extremely important. And post positions, as of today, we still don't know them. And they are key. When you combine the post position with the horse running style, that can make all the difference in the world. And one more thing, these are 3-year-olds. They're maturing, they're progressing. They can progress leaps and bounds from one race to another. And so you have to look at how are they progressing? What are their workouts looking like? Are you watching the morning workouts? The morning workouts are really important. How are they taking to the Churchill Downs track? So here's your mission if you choose to accept it. Find the Derby winner. Facts and figures are going to give you the winning edge. I give you the stats, you make the picks. Hi, it's Maura from Trifecta and a little bit extra. And this video is going to be a little different from my Derby prep videos. If you're looking for the video on every single runner, that video is coming. It's coming on Derby week. And you better get your breakfast, lunch, and dinner because we're going to go through every metric, every stat, every past performance, pros, cons, angles. It's coming. This one is all about speed and stamina. 2 key concepts you need to know to find your Derby winner. So let's get started. So let's start with the easiest of the 2 concepts, and that's speed. Now, if you are an expert handicapper, then feel free to advance to the next chapter because a lot of what I'm going to go over you should already know. But for those of you who are staying, we're going to have a quick tutorial on speed. And we're going to begin with a question that I'm sure I already know the answer to. Have you ever run before? Not do you compete in 5Ks and marathons, but in your entire life, have you ever run before? And I'm sure the answer is yes. So I want you to think back to the days when you ran and answer these questions. Did you run faster on the road or in the sand? Did you run faster at a longer distance or at a shorter distance? Did you run better when it was a cool, crisp fall morning or a dewy spring morning or high humidity and heat in the afternoon on an August day in the South? Did you do better if you did run 5Ks and marathons, because some of you are out there? Did you do better when the competition was stronger? Did you have better times? All of this applies to horses. Horses race on 3 types of surfaces: dirt, turf, and synthetic. Well, what is synthetic? Well, they take wax and they take some rubber and some sand and then fiber and they mix it all together and they make a track. Surface matters. Some horses are born for the turf and some horses are born for the dirt. And if you mix the 2 together, they don't do well in terms of speed. Horse racing also happens in most weather conditions. So if it rains, the dirt can come up muddy, sloppy, wet, and the turf can come up good or soft. And some horses do really well in those conditions, and some horses not so well. And you're going to want to know that because it tends to rain in Kentucky in May. Then things like heat, humidity, Wind, they also matter. Think about trying to run into a strong wind. It's really difficult and your speed is going to be impacted. And finally, there's distance. Some horses do really well at the longer distances and other horses do well at the shorter distances. But all in all, it takes a longer time to run a longer distance. So Maura, do I have to really look at all of that? I mean, that's a lot of information to put together. Well, yes and no. The good news is somebody has already done that for you, and that someone is not me. When you go to the track and you buy a form, they will have speed ratings. When you go online and you buy past performances, they will have speed ratings, and those speed ratings have been standardized. So for example, if you see a 98 for a 5.5 furlong turf race on a good surface, and you see a 98 for 1.125 dirt on a fast surface, they're comparable. Now, when I look at speed ratings, I look at Bayer, but that's only just one type of speed rating. There are other speed ratings out there, and all of them pretty much do the same thing. They standardize for the distance, the final time, the track variant, which means is it fast, is it sloppy, is it good, and also the quality of the competition. And when I look for Derby, I'm looking at speed ratings pretty much in the 90s or above. Now, one more thing about speed, and that's back to the questions about running. If you've ever competed as a runner, did you get better with consistent training and competition? I'm sure the answer is yes, and so do horses. Look at the workouts. Have they been consistent? Look at the races. Have they been progressing or at least holding their speed ratings? Have they been running against high competition? All of this is really important because you want to make sure that a horse going into the Derby has a solid foundation. Moving on to stamina. Now, back to a running example. Do you have what it takes to run a marathon? Some of us do, some of us do not. And outside of sheer will, it can all do with genetics. And same with horses. A horse's pedigree makes a big difference if they can get 1.25 miles distance. And how are you supposed to know if the sire produces long distance runners? Well, outside of following these sires like many of us do, you can go into programs like DRF and you can look up the sires and you can see, are their progeny winning at the longer distances? Or if you're not even comfortable doing that, or if that's a lot of work for you, we're going to go through two theories, and that's dosage and fractions. But I want you to know this, they're just theories. They're just metrics. Sometimes horses don't run like they should. So take them for what they're worth, use them as you want, but know their limitations. We're going to start with the dosage index, and that's all based on pedigree. There are really important sires out there called chiefs of racing. And these horses are put on a spectrum of speed to stamina based on how their progeny is run. So you have brilliant, intermediate, classic, solid, and professional. Brilliant is all speed, professional is all stamina. So you take your horse and you look all the way back in its pedigree and you say, are any of these chiefs of racing in that horse's pedigree? And where they are in the lineage, they get more points. So if they're first generation, they get 16 points. If they're fourth generation, they get 2 points. And then all of those points are used in the metric and you come up with a dosage index, which is really just speed to stamina. So a dosage of 4 means a horse has 4 times more speed in its pedigree than stamina. And above 4 has always been the litmus test of a horse that may not have what it takes to get the Kentucky Derby distance. So you want to look for dosage of 4 and under. So based on the top 23 in points, I've added 3 horses because we don't know who may defect. We've got 5 horses that have a dosage over 4. Sovereignty, Publisher, Neo Equus, Burnham Square, and Citizen Bowl. Does that mean these horses can't win the Kentucky Derby? Absolutely not. This is a metric. This is a statistic. Horses don't run on paper. If you look, Nyquist, the 2016 winner of the Kentucky Derby, he had a 7. And American Pharaoh, our Triple Crown winner, had a 4.33. So take it for what it's worth. But if you do go back to 1995 and you look at all the winners, 7 or 23% were above 4. And that means a majority, 77%, were 4 and below. Using the same point system, Based on the chiefs of racing, there's also this metric called center of distribution. It's a balancing point between speed and stamina. Speed is a positive number, stamina is a negative number. So you want to get as close to the negative number as possible. And we have 2 horses in the field with a center of distribution greater than equal to 1, and that's Neo Equus and Citizen Bull. Does that mean they can't win the Kentucky Derby? Well, I go back to Nyquist with a dosage of 7 and a center of distribution of 1. Now we're going to look at the fractions theory, and this is one I really like. It was popularized by National Museum of Racing and Hall of Fame inductee Jenny Reese. She said, look at that last Kentucky Derby prep race of the horse. If that horse could finish the final 3/8 in 38 seconds or less, and the final 1/8 in 13 seconds or less, that horse can get the Kentucky Derby distance. And it's been proven. If you look at the past 25 runnings of the Kentucky Derby, 18 of the horses that won in their final prep race, they ran that final 3/8 in 38 seconds or less. And 19 or 76% ran that final 1/8 in 13 seconds or less. And if you nudge that up to 13.25 seconds, you pick up now 23 of the past 25 winners. Taking the top 23 in Kentucky Derby points for Kentucky Derby 151, we get 8 horses that make the cut. Final Gambit, Rodriguez, Flying Mohawk, Sovereignty, Tappan Street, Grande, Journalism, and Luxor Cafe. Now, if we look at horses that are right on the border of this, especially that final 1/8, we get Baeza, Sandman, Burnham Square, Tiztastic, and Publisher. So we've narrowed down the top 23 to these 13. Are these the only 13 we should consider? No, I think you should consider every horse and make an informed decision. But these 13 are going to be super important for you to analyze thoroughly. So we're now going to match in the speed ratings using the last 2 races and using Bayer. We're going to look at the average speed for these 13 and show you the rank ordering. So is this it? Do I just take like top 2, top half? Oh, I wish it was that easy. We have to put these metrics into context. But before you do, I do want to demonstrate why looking at stamina first and then speed is really important. So we're going to go back to Kentucky Derby 150 last year, and we're going to do this same test and see how well it did. Here's the list of horses that passed the stamina test using the fractions theory and their average last 2 buyers going into the Kentucky Derby. And what do you see? Mystic Dan, the winner of the Kentucky Derby, 3rd on the list. Sierra Leone, who came in second on the list. Mystic Dan paid $39 for every $2 for a win bet. And the exacta of Mystic Dan and Sierra Leone for every $2 paid $258. And silly me, I didn't do this last year and I completely missed Mystic Dan. I went back to 2023 and 2022, similar results. In 2023, 16 horses passed the stamina test using the fractions theory. And Mage, when you sorted by average speed, 6th on the list. 2 Fills, 2nd. Mage paid $30 for every $2 bet. And Mage and 2 Fills, $2 exacta, $330. Now here comes 2022, Rich Strike, 80 to 1, Rich Strike. If you use the borderline stamina going to the final 1/8, at least in 13.25 seconds, guess what? He gets on the stamina list. Now, when you sorted by speed, he was last. I don't know if I would have played him, but still, I would have been aware of him. And he paid over $160 for every $2 win bet. And him and Epicenter was 4th on the list in terms of speed and passed the stamina test. Those 2 together for a $2 exacta paid $4,100. But Maura, you left me with 13 horses. You're telling me to find a Rich Strike, I gotta analyze all 13? Well, yeah, and you may add more to that list. You may be like, I don't care what you said about Citizen Bull. I like Bob Baffert. I like the fact blinkers are off. I need to consider him. That's definitely your prerogative. Looking at Kentucky Derby horses, like the Kentucky Derby itself, it's a marathon and not a sprint. And there's a lot of things that we need to consider. And that's what I'm going to do in that video next week. I'm going to go through every single horse and all the metrics and the stats. So hit subscribe, hit like, don't miss out on that video. Things I'm going to look at that are going to be super important are going to be post positions, horse's running style, tactical speed matters. Who runs really well on a muddy track if it ends up raining on Kentucky Derby Day? And also trip. Trip is going to be so important. Horses that have a really good trip, have masterful rides, they win the Kentucky Derby. Look at Rich Strike. Look at Mind That Bird. We're going to try to look at all of this information to figure out who you can really narrow maybe your top 5 down to. And not to leave you shortchanged in this video, we're going to go through some of those stats for those 13 that we've already called out. The first horse we're going to look at is Journalism. And most likely, this is going to be your Kentucky Derby favorite, and deservingly so. He's trained by Michael McCarthy and will be ridden by Umberto Rispoli. And this horse, you could tell how professional and mature he is. When Umberto is on him, he's listening, he's taking cues, and he's running incredible rides. He has got the most incredible resume. 5 starts and 4 wins. 4 wins in very quality races. The last 3 races have all been graded stakes races and Derby preps. And in those races, he got speed ratings in the last 2 over 100. And he's the only horse to have buyers over 100 in his last 2 races. The one con I want to point out is the fact he's only been running against 5 horses. How is he going to do against a field of 19? We're going to stick out west and go with the buzz horse, Baeza. He is on the outside looking in. In fact, he's got 2 horses in front of him before he can even get into the starting gate. But many people are excited and really want him to get in. He's a $1.2 million purchase by Mackenzie. But more important, his dam is Puka, who is the dam of Mage, our 2023 Kentucky Derby winner, and Dornick, our 2024 Belmont winner. Now, this horse burst onto the scene in the Santa Anita Derby, where he dueled with Journalism going down the stretch and only lost by 3/4 of a length and earned a triple-digit buyer. He's only one of 3 that have a triple-digit buyer going into the Kentucky Derby. There's Journalism, there's Baeza, and there's Rodriguez. And prior to that race, he won by 4 lengths. Now, a couple cons against him. Maybe the foundation isn't there. And along with Journalism, he has only been running against 5 or 6 horses. So how is he going to handle a field of 19? Let's move on to Rodriguez, the other horse that has a triple-digit buyer. He's trained by Bob Baffert and will be ridden by Mike Smith, who is on him for the win in the Wood Memorial. Now, this horse has the win in the Wood and has a triple-digit buyer and has Bob Baffert in his corner. But there's some things you need to consider. He had to go east in order to get that win. He was not winning against Journalism. And he seems to be the need to lead type. Horses hardly win the Kentucky Derby going gate to wire. More winners come from horses that have tactical speed. Next, let's look at Sandman. Trained by Mark Casse, he'll be ridden by Jose Ortiz. And I have said this in every single video. Don't you sleep on Sandman. He's a $1.2 million purchase by Tappan. Tappets get the distance. In fact, when he got into the Arkansas Derby going 1 1/8 miles, the longer distance for the first time, he wins by 2.5 lengths. And prior to that, he has a really strong resume in some of the best Kentucky Derby prep races of the Rebel and the Southwest, competing against 9 to 13 other horses. And he knows how to maneuver in traffic. Go look at what happened in the Southwest. He stumbled so poorly at the start and went from last to second. This horse's superpower is his rally at the end. And he knows Churchill Downs. He was in the G3 Street Sense, where he came in 3rd, and the Iroquois, where he came in 5th. Don't sleep on Sandman. Moving on to Sovereignty. This horse was born to rule. He's trained by Bill Mott and will be ridden by Junior Alvarado. His pedigree screams Kentucky Derby. I know, his dosage, 4.33, whatevs. If you look at it, he's by Into Mischief out of a Bernardini mare. And to me, that says distance, distance, distance. He announced himself in the G3 Street Sense. Where? Here at Churchill Downs when he won by over 5 lengths. Then he goes to the Fountain of Youth. That configuration of Gulfstream, totally against his running style. Horses don't really come from behind at Gulfstream due to the short stretch. But he said, oh no problem, ran past River Thames and got the win. Then goes to the Florida Derby, makes another big run, and comes in second behind Tappan Street. He's got a lot of pluses here and is a horse that you definitely want to look at. Next is Burnham Square, trained by Ian Wilkes. He'll be ridden by Brian Hernandez Jr. And this is the jockey that maneuvered Mystic Dan to the win in Kentucky Derby 150. Now he has 6 starts with 3 wins, including the Bluegrass that was just a few weeks ago, where he rallied from dead last to first. And he also won the Holy Bull over the Florida Derby winner, Tappan Street. One thing I really like about him is his progression on speed. And also, did anybody catch out that workout on Saturday? Oh my gosh, he was eager on the track. Okay, we're gonna look at Grande next, who's trained by Todd Bletcher and will be ridden by Johnny Velasquez. And this is your team that won on Always Dreaming. Now, this is a really interesting horse. He doesn't really have the foundation of other horses like Sandman, for example. He's only had 3 career starts, and he came in second in the Wood Memorial to Rodriguez. But he's had 2 races that were 1 1/8 miles. And if you look at both of those races, he passed the stamina test. And his buyer of 97 puts him in the mix. Very interesting prospect. Another horse that only has 3 career starts is Tappan Street. Trained by Brad Cox, he'll be ridden by Luis Saez. 3 starts, but 2 wins, and 1 was in the Florida Derby over Sovereignty. $1 million purchase by Into Mischief. One of the things I like is the increasing speed. And this horse, good tactical speed, and tactical speed wins derbies. Also been competing in big fields of 10 to 12 horses. Next, we have always a bridesmaid and never a bride. It's Publisher, and Publisher has yet to win a race. He's a maiden. Has a maiden ever won the Kentucky Derby before? Only 3 times, so it can be done. And why not have the next maiden winner be with trainer Steve Asmussen, who is a leading trainer at Churchill Downs? And why not the son of Triple Crown winner American Pharoah? And why not with Irad Ortiz aboard? In his 7 starts, he's been in second twice and in third 3 times. And he's been running in quality races. Arkansas Derby, Southwest, Rebel, against horses like Sandman, Tiztastic, and Coal Battle. Big quality fields. And in his last race, the Arkansas Derby, he came in second. He was only a couple lengths behind, and that was the first time he had blinkers on, and that may have made the difference. Steve Asmussen has another runner in Tiztastic who'll be ridden by Joel Rosario. And this is your Louisiana Derby winner. And why is that important? Because the Louisiana Derby is the longest Kentucky Derby prep race on the road to the Kentucky Derby, 1 3/16 miles. 8 starts, 3 wins, 1 place in 2 shows, 6 times on the board. And outside of the Louisiana Derby, this horse has been in quality prep races like the Rebel and the Southwest. Also, Churchill Downs experience in the Kentucky Jockey Club and the Street Sense. And how did he finish in those 2 races? Second and third. And the 1 3/16 miles of the Louisiana Derby bodes well that he could get the distance. Next, we're going to move to Turfway in the synthetic and talk about 2 horses. The first being Flying Mohawk. He's trained by Whit Beckman and will be ridden by Joseph Ramos. Now, I gotta love this horse's name, but I'm not really sure how he's going to do in the Derby. When he came in second in the Jeff Ruby Stakes, he came flying in late, and that race really favored closers. That was the first time he was on the synthetic. All other races have been turf. So I just wonder how well he's going to do on the dirt. But outside of that, his speed ratings are a click below the others, and he hasn't been really competing against quality horses. And even though I love his name, out of him and Final Gambit, I think Final Gambit is a better of the long shot choices. Final Gambit is trained by Brad Cox and will be ridden by Luan Machado, and this will be his first Derby. Now go back and watch the Jeff Ruby Stakes. I get it's on the synthetic, but this horse, what a trip. Last to first. And remember, trips make all the difference in the Derby. And don't really worry about the synthetic, because if you look at his pedigree, it suggests he will do really well on the dirt. And if you've been watching his workouts at Churchill Downs, they've been beautiful. The one thing I would question about this horse is the fact he jumped from buyers in the 60s to in the 90s in that Jeff Ruby Stakes. And I just wonder if he's going to be able to sustain that progression up. But he is a horse I'm going to be looking at. Finally, we're going to look at the Japanese runner, Luxor Cafe. Now this horse, very interesting. He has 6 starts with 4 wins. He has won 4 races in a row, and the last 3 races have been graded stakes races. And he won his last race by 5 lengths. And if you look at who he's by Triple Crown winner, American Pharoah. Now, we haven't had a Japanese horse yet to win the Kentucky Derby, but Forever Young last year got so close. And might I say it, Luxor Cafe may be better than Forever Young. The one thing we have to ask though is, who has he been running against? So we got speed, we got stamina, we got a little bit of information on the horses. What's next? More analysis is coming. Hit like, hit subscribe. Don't miss out on those videos. And also, drop me a comment. I want to know, who do you like in the Kentucky Derby and why? What are you seeing in the stats? This is a community for all of us to share. Because when it comes to the Kentucky Derby, we want to sashay away with our money. Until next time, cheers.